It's hard to believe that I'm walking through the ruins of the first ever city. Because I'm not. What's that for? What do you mean I can't just rip off Cunk on Earth word for word so that people get that it's a parody? Oh, for Here we are outside the MRC, University of Glasgow Centre for Virus Research, which is a mouthful and full of viruses, but better than a mouthful of viruses. And this here building is filled to the brim with LGBTQIA plus people. Around me, as I walk through this office, there are plenty of gay scientists, or scientists as they prefer to be called. Now, contrary to a common belief, gay people weren't actually invented in the 1980s. Some of them have been around for a very long time. In fact, some of them have even been scientists, but for a lot less long time, because science was invented in the 1980s. That looks cool. In the past, gay scientists and even normal gay people weren't liked that much. Take Alan Turing, for example, who was a gay computer person. Not like in a Terminator Arnold Schwarzenegger kind of way. Alan didn't have the upper body strength, but in a way where he used his brains and computers to defeat the Nazis. Unfortunately, as a thank you from the British government, Alan was chemically castrated. But today, many gay scientists of the past are celebrated. In fact, many people today will make pilgrimage to Turin, Italy, to worship at the Alan Turing Shroud. Jesus. For the next 4 weeks, we're going to be investigating gay scientists from the past. We're going to discuss their stories, and we're going to find out what made them gay scientists other than being gay and doing science. So join us in this series of Devlin Deep Dives, this LGBTQIA plus History Month, and together we'll learn their stories so that each and every single one of us can become a better gay scientist today. Here with me now is Anna Sims, who I have been assured is not actually a character from the video game The Sims, despite looking like a sim with randomized fashion. You're an LGBTQIA plus scientist. What science do you do?
I study influenza viruses.
And when in the future do you think that you'll be considered an LGBTQIA plus scientist of the past?
I don't think that's up to me. I think that's, will be long after I'm dead.
Another great scientist from the past is Florence Nightingale, who is thought to have been a lesbian. Now, what makes her an LGBTQIA plus scientist of the past and not just a gal with a pal and a lamp?
Well, we can't be too sure that Florence Nightingale was a lesbian.
No. Definitely says here on my notes, it says Florence Nightingale, lesbian, obsessed with lights. So I'm going to ask you if she's possibly a moth. I think she's a moth. Obsessed with maths and pies.
She definitely wasn't a moth. We can rule that one out.
Right.
With the lesbian thing, it's been associated with her because she rejected 4 marriage proposals in her life. And she wrote in a letter once saying that she'd shared a bed with English countesses and Prussian farmwomen. And she said that no woman has ever excited the passions of women like she had.
So if she's not an LGBTQIA plus scientist, why have you brought her up?
We can't be too sure.
And also you said Prussia, but that's just Russia with a P in front of it.
So Prussia is a German state, like in olden times. It's nothing to do with Russia. But we can't be too sure that she's a lesbian. We have to be kind of careful retroactively applying labels to people that didn't have that kind of verbiage at the time. We don't know how she identified, and during that time they spoke about romance in a lot more flowery language. So we can't be too sure. We have to be a bit careful about that.
Right. So other than being a lesbian, Florence Nightingale also did a thing with cleaning and pies. Now, would you say that Florence was a feminist? Because while she invented putting maths into pies, she was also nagging people about how unclean hospitals were. So it seems a bit one step forward, two steps back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sort of. The pie thing, so she was the first person to publish widely these diagrams called rose diagrams, or coxcombs as they were known as well, which kind of looks like a pie chart but isn't exactly. So it became known that she invented the pie chart. It's not quite the case, but she publicly widely published this kind of method of information sharing. You were right, she was very concerned with the hygiene conditions in hospitals. She was working on the front lines in war, and she saw lots of...
In war?
In wars, yeah, in the Crimean War.
She still had time for maths and pies.
Very impressive woman, and she... so she looked at the state of these hospitals, saw they were poorly ventilated, bad hygiene, no hand washing, all the stuff that...
Not even washing their hands!
No, this was before germ theory, so we didn't know how diseases spread, but she was very clear that these kind of unsanitary conditions were leading to this excess mortality. And those rose diagrams that we were talking about earlier are... The pies were... showing that information, and like you said, she was kind of nagging, but she was very insistent of sending that information to the British Army and to improve the cleanliness in the hospital to benefit her patients.
And so the nagging, did it work in the end?
Yes, it did. She sent this information to the British Army, and they employed Isambard King of Brunel to build a prefabricated hospital in England that then got shipped over to the front lines. And when it was used, it led to 1/10 of the mortality that Florence Nightingale had seen in other hospitals that she was working in before this. So yeah, a feminist, an icon.
So there we have it. Known probable maybe lesbian Florence Nightingale, who invented putting maths into pie form, washing your hands, and cleaning your room. So until next week, I'll be having another conversation with another guest about another LGBTQIA+ scientist from the history. Remember, wash your hands, keep your room clean, and just imagine what you'd want to make a pie out of. I'd make a pie out of pies. Anything's possible, except the impossible. It's 2024. Goodbye. Jesus.